Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. And if you know anyone who's planning to join in or may be interested in the webinar, by all means, do share. We are about to start. We'll just give 2 more minutes for people to filter in because the registrations were quite high. So I believe it's just a matter of timing. But do bear with us as we are about to start. Okay, so for a matter of time, we'll just have, I'll just begin with introductions as people filter in. So, first and foremost, welcome to the next installment of the ATLT Insight series. I am Eme Gisore from All Things Labs and Testing, and I am thrilled to open today's session on the expert-led webinar by Dr. Japheth Lumadede. So, first things first is the understanding of what is. I hope my screen is showing. Let me see. One moment, please. Can you see my screen, Dr. Lumadede?
Yes, we can see.
It can be seen.
I'm not sure, but I can see a screen there. All things lab and test. Yes, now I can see it.
Okay. Sorry, apologies. So ATLT, that is All Things Labs and Testing, is a transformative platform dedicated to driving excellence in laboratory science, accreditation, and testing technologies. Our aim is to unite industry leaders, regulators, innovators, practitioners, and academia, whether virtually or in person, to share best practices, showcase breakthrough technologies, and collectively address the challenges that hold on sectors back. So we focus on critical sectors, that is agriculture and food, water and irrigation, environment, engineering, mining and energy, forensics, and lastly, ICT. For with each of every one of these sectors, they depend fundamentally on robust, reliable testing because what gets tested gets trusted. So the HLT Insight series is crafted under our theme Growing Africa through quality testing. And this is an initiative that connects you directly with leading subject matter experts and thought leaders who are shaping the future of testing in Africa. Our series is anchored on 4 pillars, that is thought leadership, sharing knowledge and fostering conversations on best practices, innovation spotlights, highlighting emerging technologies and their transformative impact, knowledge exchange, where we share proven solutions and best practices that work, and industry challenges that tackle sector specific barriers to growth and development. So today's session will provide a thorough yet concise exploration of the hidden truths of a ground floor of a crime scene. So as mentioned, for every crime tells a story, but some of the most compelling chapters are written in the dark. Today, we are graced with Dr. Lumadede's presence as a distinguished criminologist and security studies lecturer with over a decade of experience with a PhD of criminology and security studies. Thus, it is my genuine pleasure to welcome Dr. Lumadede, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. Let me just switch on the video.
Online study ingine hapo anaongelea mambo na forensic work.
I hope you're able to see my screen.
We can see you, but not your screen.
Okay. Just a minute. Let me reshare.
Yes, we can see your
Can I
screen.
see my screen?
Yes.
Good. So today's topic is on forensic podiatry, the unseen evidence beneath your feet. So my name, as you've been told, is Dr. Japheth Lumadede. I am a lecturer at Tharaka University. Tharaka University is one of the youngest universities, but very competitive. This university was awarded a charter in 2022. We are trying as much as possible to deliver our studies in a practical manner. And that is why we are the first university that has a mini forensic laboratory for teaching forensic investigation students in the country as per now. So I will start by just directing us to a quote by Paul Kirk in a book on criminal investigation. He says, wherever he steps, and this is a direct quote, whatever he touches, whatever he leaves, even unconsciously, will serve as silent witness against him. Not only his fingerprints or his footprints, but his hair, the fibers from his clothes, the glass he breaks, the tool marks he leaves, the paint he scratches, blood or semen he deposits or collects. All of this and more bear mute witness against him. This is the evidence that does not forget. It is not confused by excitement of the moment. It is not absent because human witnesses are. It cannot perjure itself. It cannot be wholly absent. Only its interpretation can err. Only human failure to find it, study, and understand it can diminish its value. This is to point to us that no matter what, when people interact in a particular environment, these people either leave traces in that particular environment or they pick up traces from that particular environment. And because of this, therefore, there is always evidence of someone's presence in a crime scene or someone's interaction with other elements in the crime scene. And that is what we want to interact with today. What I'll cover today, I'll give a brief overview of the topic, then touch on the importance of this topic today. And then I'll touch on the formation of footwear impressions, and then location and recovery of these footwear impressions, and then how do we examine the footwear impressions. Then I'll give a conclusion and a way forward. As we start, in a crime scene, there are various types of evidence, but most of the time, evidence, you might not get other evidences, but you will possibly get the podiatry evidence that from the crime scene. Because this person most probably did not fly into the crime scene and out of the crime scene. Because of this, there is always evidences that is left in the crime scene. Therefore, if we improve our way of identifying and analyzing evidence from the crime scene, then it is possible that most of the cases that go unanswered in our judicial system, we will always find a solution for it because we are using all other ways to gather evidence. And with this evidence that we have gathered, we are able to prosecute and make sure that justice is given. Forensic podiatry is a discipline that applies the knowledge of human foot, the ankle and the lower limb, to legal investigations and judicial proceedings. The focus of forensic podiatry, mainly we look at the bare footprints, what in the footprints can help us identify whether someone was in the crime scene or not. We look at the footwear impressions, which are also called shoe prints. We also look at the insole impressions, and then we look at the gait. Gait basically is how people walk, the strides they make, the angles of their feet from the direction that they are going. Forensic podiatry primarily operates within 4 key areas of practice. We have podiatric treatment records. This is basically what is used in the medical field. They analyze the medical records to establish probably the medical history of particular patients by looking at the feet, because feet has a lot of information in regard to a particular person. Then we have footprint analysis, which is the examination of either static or dynamic impressions that are given by the bare feet. And then we have the footwear analysis, which is the shoe prints now. The difference between footprint analysis is bare feet, and footwear analysis is when you are wearing a type of shoe. So with this shoe also, we examine the impressions left by the shoes, including if the shoe itself is left in the crime scene. And then lastly, we look at the gait analysis. Our intention is not to cover the first part of it, which is podiatric treatment, which is basically what is used in the medical field, where from the gait they are able to understand different things. You can see the pictures that I've just given in summary. We can know if this person has Parkinson's disease by how they are walking. You can look at the different gaits that are there, the waddling gait, the ataxic gait. These are the abnormal gaits of different people. There are those with hip hike gait and gaits and all those type of gaits. But us, we are not interested in podiatric treatment records and all those gaits that are involved in the medical field. Instead, our interest is the latter 3, which is the prints from bare feet, the prints from shoe prints, and then the gait analysis for purposes of forensic identification and analysis. The importance of footwear impressions. Why is it important that we need to understand podiatry in relation to forensics? First one is that from these footwear impressions, we are able to understand the class characteristics of the footwear, which can help us in solving a crime. We are able to know the make of the shoe, the model of the shoe, the size of the shoe, the tread design of this particular shoe, which can help us to eliminate different suspects who we might think might have participated in a crime scene. It can also help us to understand if through the impressions in the entry or exit of a crime scene, a person was present or participated in the crime scene. It helps us also in crime scene reconstruction. This is coming up with some theory in regards to what might have happened, and then what happened, and then what happened in the crime scene. Because from the entry and how we can look at the prints, we are able to see that this person might have entered from this point, then probably did this, and then he did that, and then he did this. That is crime scene reconstruction. Also, another value of the footwear impression is that we are able to know the number of perpetrators who might have been involved in a crime scene. With so many other footprints and shoe prints, we are able to know how many people approximately might have been involved in this particular crime scene. We are also able to estimate the height of the person who was in a crime scene by looking at the length of the stride and doing some stride analysis. This estimation is important in discriminating those evidences or those people who might not have participated in the crime scene and those who participated in the crime scene. Then it will also give us gait characteristics, which we are going to touch on, and also it can help us in tracking. Tracking is when people walk, we are able to know to which direction these people walked, and yes, to which direction these people walked, and any other disturbances that might have affected their walking along the way. This has been used probably with people tracking illegal immigrants, etc. So we have said that it helps us to understand the number of criminals, it helps us understand the point of entry, it helps us understand the position of the suspects, the direction of the movement, the time period that probably a print has been, can also show us, because there are prints, especially in snow, and these other things where we know prints usually take lesser time before they disappear. When you find it, then it means this person might have been there not long ago. Then the sequence and the manner of walking, and we have said the type of shoe and all those. It also helps us understand the wear pattern. All these things, we're going to look at it, where I'm going to tell you what are some of these terms, such as the pronation, supination, pronation, etc., in regards to a human foot and pedal evidence. It also helps us in understanding what design of shoe and class characteristics of this particular person in terms of age, in terms of gender, in terms of weight. We can always estimate these things from the footwear impression, which I'm going to delve into. As people walk, they either leave materials like dust as they walk, grease, blood, moisture, or they pick up materials as they walk. And because of this, we can either have visible prints or latent prints. Visible prints are prints that you can be able to see with a naked eye. And the latent prints are prints that you are not able to see with a naked eye. So we have to enhance them. We have to enhance them so that we are able to see them and use them for analysis. Now, when these impressions are left in the surface, they can either leave a 3D dimensional impression or a 2D dimensional impression. 2D dimensional impression are those impressions that are left on a soft and malleable, 3D impressions are left on a soft and malleable surface. For instance, in mud, when you step on mud, the mud sinks. You deform that surface because of your weight, because of the size of your feet. There's something that you're going to leave there. There's a print. That is a 3D print because you deform the surface that you are going to step on. Or can be a 2-dimensional impression where you step on a hard surface, and because it is a hard surface, you are not able to exact your weight to deform that particular surface. These hard surfaces include plastics, paper, wood, clothing, glass, carpet, etc. So you can either leave a 3-dimensional impression or a 2-dimensional impression. If you can leave either of those, then in formation of these footwear impressions, we see that there are 3 ways in which these footwear impressions are formed. One is through the creation of static charges. When a shoe contacts a surface, friction creates electrostatic charges. These electrostatic charges, therefore, they leave an impression that can be visualized by looking at the adherence of those trace materials and the formation of the transfer impressions in those trace materials. Then, as we have said also, there is deformation of surface, which is 3D, where there is sinking of the surface where you're stepping in. And because there is that kind of deformation, we are able to pick up that impression and use that impression for our analysis. Other than that, we also have the transfer of trace and residue impressions. You can either leave an impression where you are stepping on or pick impressions, pick particles from where you're stepping on. If you leave an impression where you're stepping on, you are producing what you call a positive impression. When you pick particles from where you're stepping on, you produce what you call a negative impression. So if you pick dust from outside the room and you step on a cleaned room and you leave those particles in that cleaned room, that is a positive impression. But let's say you go from a positive, a dirty room, and you pick the dust or the paint or the blood from a crime scene or a dirty room, and then you go to a clean surface and you deposit those residue as you go, then it means you are now, when you deposit, it means that is a positive depression. But when you pick from that particular room, and then it will leave impression that you picked some substances there, that is a negative impression. No. For the positive impression, where we leave some substances there as we go, there are various ways that we collect those evidences that we're going to look at. And also for the negative, there are also various ways that we collect that evidence for analysis that we're going to look at. In collection of evidence from the crime scene, we make sure that, first of all, this is purely some security procedures. We secure the scene. I know you've seen this while looking at how a crime scene is being processed. We secure the crime scene, and then after securing the crime scene, we identify where the evidences are that we are trying to get from the crime scene. In our case, we are focusing on the podiatry evidence that you're going to get from the crime scene, the footwear evidence that you're going to get from the crime scene. And therefore, we look at this, the different areas and locations that we might be getting these impressions. And when we locate these impressions, we try and pick those evidence for our analysis. These impressions might be in areas such as where you are getting into the crime scene, where we call it the entry of the crime scene, and inside the crime scene, including other areas that this criminal might have accessed in the crime scene, and all the way to when this criminal left the crime scene. And this, therefore, we will try as much as possible to detect where the crime scene is, and we can do this in 3 different ways. One, there are crime scenes that are very visual, they're very visible. These visible crime scenes, we can just look at them without the use of any other thing. We collect these evidences. We photograph this evidence. If it is evidence that we can be able to carry, let's say it is a piece of paper that was in the crime scene and someone has stepped on it, we pick that piece of paper, we go with it for analysis. But if it is a flaw and we are not able to carry the flaw with us, therefore, we have to enhance that, we have to photograph that evidence because this is a visible evidence. If it is not a visible evidence, as I've told you, we might leave evidence that someone can see, but we might also leave evidence that someone cannot see with the visible eyes. This that we cannot see with the visible eyes is the latent impressions. And for these latent impressions, what we use other ways of enhancing these latent impressions on the ground. And then we see how we can photograph this. We can use oblique lighting. For instance, we make sure that the room is dark, and then we use ultraviolet light plus other type of lighting. And with that, we are able to see how the footprints as they were moving around the crime scene. At the same time, we can use the substrate-specific search, where we use some lifting devices and residues, such as the electrostatic lifting device, that through the electrostatic lifting mechanisms, we are able to see how it can pick out the impressions that were left in the crime scene. After this, the crime scene then is documented. This is a repetition. I've said that for impressions that are transportable, we pick that impression, we go with it. If it is a piece of paper, we pick it and go with it. If it is a glass, we pick it and go with it. But if it is something that is non-transportable, we have to photograph that. If we have to photograph that, therefore, we have to enhance. We have to use other methods of enhancing and picking those impressions using a photograph. The enhancement techniques that we use, as I've told you, we can use ultraviolet light, which helps even in picking, especially the biological traces. Someone has stepped on blood and then he has stepped on the crime scene. We are able to see the blood impressions by using ultraviolet light. We can even use semen. We can use saliva. We can detect semen. We can detect saliva. We can also use infrared, where it also reveals. The infrared lighting reveals impressions of blood stains, especially in dark backgrounds. And then we can also use what we call alternate light source, where we use alternate light source, especially in a dark room, and it can show, or by use of some goggles, it can show that this is the impression that we're trying to get from the crime scene. Other ways of enhancing this crime scene, other than using light to detect, we can use powder. We can apply powder on the crime scene. There is the black powder, there is the gray powder, and the magnetic powder, just like the powders that we use in fingerprint enhancement methods. Because of this, we will be able to see the fingerprints more clearly. We can also use gelatin lifts. Gelatin, if you have ever gone to process your ID or passport, there is the ink that they use to brush or roll on a particular surface, and then you're told to press your hand and then press it on a piece of paper. That is a type of gelatin lift. We can also use adhesive lifts and electrostatic lifting for these kinds of physical enhancement methods. Now, we can also use some other chemical enhancement methods. In chemical enhancement methods, it helps, especially when there is something that we want to react to the particular chemical, to help us see the particular prints that we are interested in. For instance, in oily surfaces, we can use chemicals such as the potassium thiocyanate. We can also use other reagents, which are also chemicals, such as the leucocrystal violet. These I know for especially people who are in your field in chemistry, you are so you know about this more. You're so knowledgeable on this. The leucocrystal violet, when we apply it on a surface where there is blood, or we suspect there is blood, if there is blood, the prints will turn to purple blue. when it turns to purple blue, we are able to take photographs of those prints, and then we can now use them for analysis. We can also use amido black, which stains the proteins in blood, and it produces dark blue. And then there is also diaminobenzidine, which turns to a brown stain. These are chemicals that are used in enhancing the prints that have been left, because it reacts with the different types of biological evidences that are there, which will help us in picking out the impressions that have been left in the crime scene. When it is a 3D impression, what we use, we can use the plaster of Paris, or we can use the name is just the dental stone. We can use dental stone or the plaster of Paris. We prefer using the dental stone, because even when you brush over it after picking the evidence, you will not interfere with the ridges and everything as it has come out from the impression. But where you don't have dental stone, you use the plaster of Paris. This is something that you mix. These are chemicals that you mix with water. When you mix with water and an impression was left probably in the mouth, what you do is that you go and pour that water, that liquid in that impression, and you give it some few minutes or hours. For the plaster of Paris, you give it 24 hours to 48 hours. But for the dental stone, which is preferred, you give it 30 minutes to 1 hour, and it will be able to harden. When it has hardened, you are able to pick it out and then go and analyze it. After taking the photographs, you can also enhance the photograph through the other photographic ways of enhancing pictures, and you're also able to pick the different things that you're going to get from the crime scene. Now, after picking that, what do we analyze there? First, I told you that this footwear, we look at different things. And in this, we are able to pick out different things from it. The pattern, the size, the shape, and different things that we're going to look at as we are going through this section. Here, there are three ways of examining the prints that we're going to get from the crime scene. One, we can do a side-by-side examination where there is the impression that you have picked from the crime scene here, and there is the impression that you want to compare to find out if probably the impression of the suspect or the impression of the exemplar. These people who have also interacted with the crime scene, we will pick their prints and we will be able to discriminate and do away with any print that might have been left there by someone who should have been in the crime scene at that particular time when we are processing the crime scene. Any other person who has their prints there and is not part of the people processing the crime scene, this is a crime scene, a print that now should be given more focus. Now we relate these prints to the prints of the different suspects that we are going to get from the as the investigation goes on. We can also use what we call the superimposition technique. Other than the side-by-side examination, we can use superimposition technique, where nowadays there are even digital softwares that you can use to compare through the forensic imaging of different prints, and they see if this print that we have gotten from the crime scene is related to this print. These are the print that we were able to put in the system. And then the third way of also comparing is the use of aids such as microscopes. We can use a microscope and look at the print to be able to look to identify the different things, the ridges, the cuts, the nicks, the different things that you're going to get from the impression. Now, in footwear comparison, for instance, there are 4 things that we look at. We look at the design. If it is a particular shoe, we look at the design of that shoe. We look at the pattern that we're getting from that shoe. A Nike shoe probably will have an image of the Nike somewhere there, a logo of the Nike somewhere there. Also, we look at the different patterns, and from the patterns, we are able to see that this is this particular type of shoe. We can see this is a high heel. We can see that this is a boot, probably from the different patterns that you're going to get there. For instance, you can see this is an outsole pattern of different types of shoe. Therefore, if probably the first print is the print that we found in the crime scene, if the suspects that probably we are dealing with are having the other types of prints, then we are able to say now this is not the person that might have been involved in this particular crime. Other than that, we also look at the physical size and shape. Generally, men have feet that is bigger than women. That is on I'm just using the term generally. I'm not adding some statistics to it because it is neither here or there. Person probably is someone who is older. For instance, we cannot expect a child to have a shoe that is probably 11 inches, 12 inches, centimeters, as we have talked about. And then from that also we can look at the wear pattern. From the print also we can look at the wear pattern, where we can look at the degree of wear, how you step can also tell us where most of the weight is in terms of the patterns that you've left. We can also look at the symmetry, the differences between the right and the left shoe. And because of this, it can tell us a number of things about you as a person. Generally, there are 3 ways in which we there are 3 ways in which we step. When you look at how you step, there is what we call pronation. Pronation is the normal step, whereby there is a slight lift, there is a slight arc in your feet. This slight arc is possibly to absorb the shock of your body when you step and when you walk. So there is a slight arc. This is called pronation. I don't know if I have an image of the same. Yes, I think I have an image of the same somewhere here. Yes, here. when, sorry, no, I don't have. When you step, because there is a slight arc somewhere there, that is called pronation. When you have a flat feet, that is called overpronation. And then when you have a high arc, there are people with a high arc, that arc beneath your feet is higher. These people with a high arc, we call it supination or underpronation. We call it supination or underpronation. So because of this, it leaves different marks when someone is walking. It leaves different marks when someone is walking. Now, for instance, the normal feet will put more pressure at the center, the one with a slight arc. But the moment the arc is higher, then this person puts more pressure on the edge, the outer edges of his shoe when this person is walking. And when it is flat, you will see there is even distribution of weight all over the impression that has been left. Because of this, we are able now to look at as someone walks, and this is very important, especially when we have video evidence of probably someone. We don't have the facial evidence of this person who committed a particular crime, but we have the video evidence while they are walking into the crime scene. If we have this video evidence and then we have suspects, we can be able to look at that and compare this person, this evidence that we have, and say that, you know, because of how this person is walking, because of this gait of this particular person, then we can actually say that this person is the person who was in the crime scene. Then individual characteristics, we can also find these individual characteristics in the crime scene. In the shoe, we can have cuts in the shoe, different cuts, different gouges, holes in the shoe. These things, we can use them to compare, or even a stone that was in the shoe, because in the impression, we are able to see that in the particular impression that has been left, then we are able to compare this to what we are supposed to analyze. Because of this, because of time, let me brush a little bit faster. In terms of gait, we have stride length. That is the length between successive steps of the same feet. For instance, your left feet, from when it steps to the next step, we look at the distance between that. And this is called the stride length. Also, the step length, that is the distance between opposite feet. It may be unequal because you might get, depending on how people walk, the right side goes away from the center more than the left side. And this is perfectly okay. But then we can compare this step length and say that because of this step length is different from the other step length that we got from probably in the crime scene, then this is not the same person. We can also use the stride width, where we are talking about the walking base, and then the foot angle, the angle that the foot leaves from the center of the direction where you're going, because normally our feet leaves the center at a slightly, we slightly have feet that, I don't know what this shape is, but it leaves the center at a slightly an angle. But we have different, there are some people who their feet now faces this direction. And then there are those ones who their feet has now, it is not now slightly, but it now leaves the center at a very significant diversion. Now, because of this, we are able to look at some of those things and come up with an analysis that this probably is the person who committed a particular crime or not. The picture on your screen shows the difference between the stride length and the difference between the foot angle, as you can see from there. Now, as someone walks in different, using, we can analyze the gait of a person in two steps. There is a start.
Apologies. Just one moment. Dr. Lumadede is going to come back in.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, thank you. So you can hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I said 60% of the time that someone walks is in a stance face, and 40% of the time when someone walks is in a swing face, where the 1 foot is on air. So we can use this to help us in analyzing. I've given you a picture of this, where when there is both the heel and the feet has just struck the ground, we call it the heel strike. Both feet are on the ground. Now this is a stance face. The loading face, you now want to lift 1 foot. Then the mid stance, you are lifting the other side, and then terminal stance, you are bringing the other feet to the ground. Then pre-swing, you want to lift the feet, and then etc. Because of time, allow me to brush through the different prints that are seen when someone walks. When this person, the feet gets to the ground, the heel goes fast. Therefore, these are the kind of impressions we see. And then the whole feet goes. But when he's lifting, you can see there is the half, only the front part of the feet is left, meaning the other bit has been you cannot see the other impression. So that is in the swing face. Now, this is what I talked about. There are people with feet that is facing inwards, and those ones with feet that is facing outwards. We call it the femoral retroversion. And then there is the normal feet, which I've also shown in the particular pictures that you can see here. With this different type of feet, we can see that if it is pronation, we expect the feet to form this kind of if it is the normal feet, we expect this kind of this kind of impression. But if you have high arc, then we expect your feet to press the sides of the feet more than it inside. But when your feet is flat, we see there is more pressing on the inside of your feet more than the outside of your feet. So there is this, I will share this PowerPoint. You can also go through it at a later time. This analysis of the gait can help us in understanding a number of things in the crime scene. One, the foot type, from the overpronation, which is flat feet, and the supination, which is the high arc feet. So from this, we can able to see that this person has this kind of a gait from the crime scene, and therefore we can relate that to probably the other people that we are seeing, and say that this one could not be the person who was in the crime scene. Another one is in terms of age. We can see that someone who is more aged becomes slower, and therefore their stride is shorter in length, and they have a wider step to maintain stability compared to a younger person. So we can also approximate their ages by looking at their gait. In terms of sex, we can say that females, because they swing their hips more, and because of this, their stride length and the length ratio will be different. They have a smaller angle of progression compared to male, and this we can use to say, okay, this probably was a female, and those kinds of things, including now the other things that we talked about, the feet. If there is a high heels that was used, we can actually say now this was high heels that were used in this, gave this impression in the crime scene. Then we can also look at the fatigue in terms of how there is what we call cadence. This is the sequence in which a step is made. If the sequence is slower, then we can always say that this is a person who is probably tired or affected in a particular way compared to others. My time is done, but let me just clear with this. We can also, let me go straight to the limitations of using this in analysis, because I have 1 minute. The limitation is that we only use this podiatry evidence in relation in complement to complement other kinds of evidence. Otherwise, we cannot use this evidence in itself because especially the gait analysis, because this can vary. It can vary, especially even a particular person, one person can have different gaits at different particular times. For instance, when this person is tired, he will walk in different steps compared to when this person is not tired. And also when this person is sick, or when this person is affected by some other things like emotions, disease, etc., it will affect. Therefore, because of this, we are so limited in how we are also using this, but it brings rich evidence, and it helps us in narrowing the suspects, the number of suspects that we're going to involve in trying to solve a particular crime. These are just pictures of different footprints. And finally, we are saying that if we find that the impression in the crime scene is the same as the impression that we were trying to analyze and compare with, we say that there is a positive identification. if we see a strong similarity, but it is to a larger level, but we are not really certain, we talk about a probable association. But if the evidence is insufficient, but at least there is some evidence to show, we say there is evidence, but it is inconclusive. But if there is no similarity between the two, then we eliminate the different evidences that we were analyzing. With that, I want to say that forensic podiatry is something that can be used in analysis and should be adopted with different forensic investigation agencies, because it can provide a lot of rich information in narrowing the list of suspects and also helping us in directing our investigation towards the right direction. Otherwise, thank you so much, Amy. Sorry for taking a lot of time.
No, it's all right. Your expertise is very, very much welcome. So thank you as well. I think because of time, we can take one question. I don't know if you can see the Q&A chat. There are a couple of questions that have come up. So I can read it out loud for you. The first question that came through from Brian that asks, with forensic podiatry evidence, can it withstand legal scrutiny? And how do forensic podiatrists address challenges related to the admissibility and reliability of this type of evidence in court?
Thank you. Yes, forensic podiatry evidence can stand the scrutiny, the legal scrutiny that can be subjected to. It can be subjected to. It helps, but then forensic podiatry, just like any other forensic evidence, it is better when it is used when complemented with other types of evidence. That we have footprint there, but we also have some other evidences which will help us to now say that to a higher level of certainty, we can say that this indeed is the person who was involved in a particular crime. For forensic podiatrists, what is recommended is that we be very thorough in getting that evidence, because most of this evidence is latent. Latent meaning we are not able to get this evidence through our eyes at first sight. So we need to use different chemicals of enhancement and different ways of enhancement, as I've taken you through, to do this. And also because of how hidden some of these evidences are, it only takes a keen eye to make sure that we get all these evidences the right way, and therefore it becomes richer and helps in criminal investigation. When we do this, it is easier for this evidence to convince the judge and all those players in the criminal justice system that indeed this evidence has been tested, and because it has been tested, it provides accurate evidence which can help in coming up with pursuing justice.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I don't know if you can take on one more question or
Yes.
we can conclude.
Yes, I can.
Okay. So one last question is, what are some of the main challenges forensic podiatrists face when presenting evidence in court? Can you hear me? Dr. Lumadede.
Hello,
Okay.
Amy.
Yes.
Yes, please, pardon.
What are some of the main challenges forensic podiatrists? Actually, there's somebody who's asking to ask his question verbally. So I think we can also give that person the opportunity. So I don't know if it's still here. If you're available, but if not, then we can just continue.
Yes. What is the
Okay.
question?
Okay, so the question is, what are some of the main challenges podiatrists face when presenting evidence in court?
The main challenges. One of the challenge, as I've said, is one, the issue of forensic podiatry has not been fully embraced, especially in the African society. So because it has not been fully embraced, we are, it is still something that you have to do a lot of work in convincing the criminal justice players and all those that this actually means this. But I hope that this is a beginning, and people can embrace this, and we can have more experts who will take different subsectors and sub expertise in this field, and be better at it, and help in ensuring that this is a recognizable forensic evidence. Then another one is that reliability of this evidence depends on a lot of things, including the experts themselves. So if the experts were not thorough in picking these evidences and in complementing this evidence with other evidence, then it creates a problem, because you need to convince the prosecution and all the other people that are involved, the judges, etc., that indeed this evidence meets the scientific standards that have been set and helps in proving beyond doubt, reasonable doubt, that indeed this person committed a crime. But if we are not thorough, which is always the issue with the investigations, we lose it, and because of that, we miscarry the justice. And another one, when people understand that this type of evidence is important in analysis, then there is also the possibility that people who commit crime can come with other impressions to just misdirect the investigation. For instance, I'm thinking someone might say, okay, let me come up with let me wear some shoes for female gender. And then after we've worn those shoes, everybody else will be misdirected towards finding out who is this lady who committed this crime, yet it was a gentleman. But there are other ways that you can also prove that indeed that is not the case. Another one is the issue of resources. We do not have, in fact, a forensic laboratory. We had only recently, some time back, that is when we had the DCI forensic laboratory. So forensic in its, as a field, has not grown so much. And because of this, also, it has not been embraced a lot. But currently, as you're seeing, even from what we are doing at Tharaka University, we are trying to produce people who are able to forensically process all this different type of evidence, and therefore there will be experts, and we are going to make sure that indeed justice cannot be miscarried because there will be a lot of experts to process some of these things. So those are the challenges that I know.
Okay. So thank you very much. Due to time, and I do believe that everybody else has to head somewhere, we will have to conclude this very insightful session. However, as you can all see, Dr. Lumadede has placed his email address so that people with whom have other questions, because some are still filtering in, they can present them to him and even have that discussion with him, even via phone. So it has been quite insightful and quite interesting to learn how what a profound impact one's own stride or even foot direction that we don't really think about can be utilized in forensic investigation. So we're truly looking forward to see the advancements that are going to occur in this field, especially here in Kenya as we grow. So thank you very much, Dr. Lumadede, for shedding light on how this specialized field adds a critical layer in evidence, complementing traditional forensic methods. So we would like to thank also as well the participants for showing up, and we would like to encourage you as well to just explore the evolving science, try and see if you might even want to fit yourself within this field, because we are never limited when it comes to expertise. So thank you all very much for joining us in advancing the knowledge and strengthening Africa's forensic and quality testing landscape. So we will bid adieu and end here. And lastly, just thank you as well, Dr. Lumadede.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for the participants. Thank you.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you.